two human emotions: anger and sorrow. Are you filled with sorrow when you are angry? Or are you joyful because you can retaliate, because you can really, when one gives you one rap in the face, you have the strength to give him two? Is your anger mixed with sorrow? And I want to go back to the 3rd chapter of the Gospel of Mark and see how the Lord Jesus behaved during the time that he was in the synagogue in Nazareth. And here comes a man with a withered hand, and the Lord actually did something that he knew was going to arouse the opposition of the leaders of the synagogue, of the scribes, the Pharisees, the Jews that were there. Because they were looking at what Jesus would do for the single purpose of criticizing him, no matter what he would do. And you know, there is a lesson here. No matter what you and I do, if we are followed by a person who is negative, who is a critic instead of a builder, no matter what you and I do, that person will find something for which to criticize us. Absolutely certain. Now, if somebody wants to come into your home, for instance, and see how you behave in your family, and he is a critical person, take my advice: don't put him in your front door. Because no matter what you do, he will find fault with you, and he will go out to malign you. No matter what. Don't compromise with negative people. They will put you in trouble, and you don't need their trouble. Now, the Lord Jesus, what did he do? He had to weigh what he was going to do. He knew this was the Sabbath day. He knew that they would oppose him if he extended his healing hand toward the ailing hand of this man. He knew that. So what was more important for him? To be known as a strict legalist, keeping the law without any true in-depth examination of whether they could be exemptions to that law, or go right ahead and heal that man, come what may. The Lord Jesus chose to heal this man. However, probably you have read this many, many times. Let me read to you the 5th verse of the 3rd chapter of the Gospel of Mark. And I'll read it in the King James Version. You can read whatever translation you may have and make your own judgment as to whether the version, the translation that you use is correct or wrong. And when he had looked round about on them, that's fine. With anger, that's fine. With anger. May I point to you that the preposition with there is the preposition meta, M-E-T-A, which means something that is attached to you, but something with which you're not without control over that thing. There is another preposition, and that is sin, S-U-N. Now, this preposition is with, again, together, but it joins you together. It is more part of you than the other. Now, the next word that we find in verse 5, we read, and looking around on them with met orgis. Wrath was something that the person who had it could control it. But the next participle, and the Greek participle here is silipumenos. In the King James Version is translated being grieved. But lipumenos is grieved. But this preposition isn't translated at all in the King James Version. I don't know whether it's translated in your translation, in the version that you prefer to use. I do not know. There are so many translations today. But this preposition, which is in front of the word being grieved, does not occur in the translation. And in my opinion, it is important that it should have been made clear. And this is why we have this broadcast, and we call it New Testament Light. It is to shed light on that which you cannot discover by merely reading a translation. Although the translation is perfectly all right, what can you do after all? You have to read your New Testament in a translated form, but this is why we produce the Hebrew Greek Key Study Bible, to help you to find what the Greek words are for the most important English words in the Old and the New Testament. And that's why we have the complete word study New Testament, so that you will know what every word of the King James Version translates in the Greek. And you can go to the Greek and find out. Now, the word silipumenos, it is being grieved with. It doesn't tell us, however, with whom. Being grieved, but it says, upon being grieved or for the hardness of their hearts. So, sorrow for the evil is something that is absolutely a necessity to be part and parcel of the emotion of anger. The Lord Jesus was angry. At the same time, he was sorrowful for what? For the hardness of their hearts. He tried to avert something, but at the same time, he looked at these people and he was grieved within his soul. For what? For the hardness of their hearts, because every time they tempted him, they became harder and harder and harder in their conscience. Now, when we are angry, we must at the same time show how sorry we are for the sin that caused the people against whom we are angry, for the sin that caused it. And we must never stop until, with our anger, showing how sorry we are for the sinfulness of the people, may do everything that we can to bring change in their lives.